All right, welcome guys to another dog vlog. So as you guys know, I've been dabbling in raw feeding my dogs for the past year and a half. And it's been something I've been really interested in doing, but it's taken me a bit to get to that plunge. Now, current state, my dogs are fully 100% raw fed, meaning raw meat, raw bone, crushed bone, raw organ. They are 100% raw fed, zero kibble, zero fillers, etc. And I'll never go back, but it took me a bit to go get there. So today I want to talk a little bit again about how they're doing on raw and how the first part of their transition from kibble to raw went. One thing I do want to talk about though is a question I was asked by a friend, which was, what took you so long to transition them to 100% raw? At first I was like, well, that's kind of a direct question. And I couldn't answer at first. Like at first I was like, I don't know. I mean, I knew it was best. I knew it was right. And I was adding whole fresh foods to their kibble and been experimenting with it, but I never committed to fully raw. It was always, 50% raw, and then, for the morning, and then for dinner they would get kibble or something like that. And it took me a while to understand why I hesitated, but now I know. So here it is. I was too prideful. Yeah, I mean, that's the honest truth. Now, I didn't come to that conclusion right away. This took me probably weeks at least to really think about and understand why I hesitated to going to fully raw when I knew that it was the right way. I knew it was the best thing. I had a ton of research I'd collected that proved it. I really think that it boils down to the fact that I was prideful. I had been convinced through my own ignorance, I guess, that kibble was the way to feed my dogs. And I have always considered myself this true, sincere dog lover, and that I would never compromise on my dog's health, and that my dogs are the most important, look at that Freudian slip, one of the most important things in my life. And how could I be doing something that was causing them harm, i.e. feeding kibble? But I was feeding Bentley here, my lab, kibble for most of his life. For years, I was feeding him kibble, thinking that I was doing the right thing, when in fact I wasn't. Even high quality, high protein kibble, it's still packed with carbs and starches and sugars and little unnecessary fillers and preservatives that dogs don't need. And it's not that they just don't need it, it's harmful to them. I digress. If you want me to ramble more on that topic, comment below and I'd be happy to go in more depth. But this video is actually about the dogs and how they're doing just a few weeks into eating raw fully 100% instead of just supplemental. So a few weeks in, what I will say is Finn transitioned like a pro. Now, he was only a puppy when we transitioned him, so it's usually easier for puppies. And yes, puppies can eat raw. How do you think they eat in the wild? But yes, Finn, honestly, he can't get enough of the food. I mean, and what I mean by that is he loves it. Like, that dog is food driven. And we knew that when we first adopted him from iDog Rescue, but now that he eats raw, it's like it's changed. His eyes are brighter, his whole body just exudes excitement when that raw bag is coming out and it's time to feed him. He loves it, and it makes him so happy, which in turn makes me so happy. So Finn transitioning just fine. Honestly, the hardest part with feeding him raw is because he's so excited about mealtime. Before, when I would feed him kibble, he'd be sort of excited and that would be it. Now with feeding raw, he's so excited he'll jump up sometimes. So we've had to work on some more obedience, but he's picked up on it. Now, this guy struggled. Bentley's 8 years old and he's eaten kibble most of his life. So And I only started adding raw whole fresh foods to his diet like barely a year ago. And it was only like 50-50. But now that he's 100% raw, he's doing great today. But for that first 2 weeks, quite honestly, was pretty bad. I went full in cold turkey to 100% raw food. And his body, because it had been eating kibble for so long, really latched on to those nutrients, and it was so rich that it caused him to have a lot of loose stool in the beginning. Now, he loves raw and he loved it in the beginning, but his stomach, it was just, it was a lot for him. So that was emotional. It was tough because in the beginning I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm feeding him this raw food. It's supposed to be better for him, but now he's having diarrhea, sorry for the TMI, and is this bad for him? Is it making him sick? And as much as I know that that is so super common, there were a few times like, oh my gosh, I've made my dog sick. I need to take him to the vet. But I didn't need to do that. I monitored him. I'm making sure he got fluids in, and he was fine. After about a week and a half, 2 weeks, he was fine. I gave him some chicken feet frozen, which added a little extra raw chicken feet. And I have a video of that actually right here. I'll link that. And because that has some extra bone in it, that helped firm up his stool, and then he was fine. Now, okay, this TMI, but now both of them, their poos are amazing. Like every blog or vlog or article I read about feeding raw, it was talking about how their poo would really like firm up, not like they're in pebbles, guys, TMI, but like it would basically be firm and super small and almost melt away after a few days because there's no like preservatives in it that came from the kibble. And guys, it's true. Like I almost feel like I don't need to have the dog pooper scooper guy come as often as I do now because their poos are much less frequent. So far, their coats are shinier. Bentley, you'll recall from his video, again, I'll link right here about starting to fully feed raw, was full of flakes, and I'm not seeing that anymore. His teeth are looking whiter, and just it's been an incredible experience. Not an easy one. Not easy by any means. It took a little bit of adjustment. You know, feeding raw is a little bit less convenient than kibble. I can't just scoop it out. You know, I gotta pull it out of the fridge and let it defrost if it's frozen, etc. So it's a little bit more of a process, but not that bad. Anyways, but that's a quick update. I'll give you guys a more in-depth update once they've been fully 100% raw for a few months or so. Oh, and the raw food that we are feeding. So this is a whole nother topic, and I would love to do more of an in-depth video on this because I'd love to explain the why. Comment below if you'd like to know the why, but they are eating a pre-made, complete and balanced raw diet. I'd love to talk to you guys about why I feed what I'm feeding and kind of the pros and cons of doing DIY versus pre-made, in my opinion. But let me know if you'd be interested in that by commenting down below. Thank you guys for your support. The boys are very grateful for you in subscribing to these videos and sharing them and just showing us some love. And we hope that you have a beautiful